Yo, what up, fellow raiders? We just got news that some new champions will be joining the Plarium army this January, and I wanted to record my first reaction, read their skills, and find out which of these champions is going to be best for anyone who is going to be getting them in the game. So let's head over to the news and see what Plarium said first in their Discord. It said the Plarium echoes across the realms of Teleria, and fearless champions rise to answer the call. To see these newcomers for yourself and decide whether you want to recruit them. Who knows, perhaps one of them will become the linchpin of your roster. I seriously doubt that. So let's see if the next Rotos or the next Call Lord is going to be in this list that they'll release right here. So if you head over to the official news, I'll start with the first one, of course. They released legendary champions and epic champions. Luckily for us, there is no rare and uncommon champions in this mix, because we know we have too much already rares and uncommons. So let's head over to this guy. Danag's Call Reap is a magic affinity champion, a legendary champion. Nice design, I guess, in terms of his avatar. We've not seen their main champion design yet. They are not yet in the game, so if you do check your list of champions, you will not find these ones. So they'll be dropped one. I don't think they will release them all at the same time, but let's see. On his A1, he's an Orc, an attack-based champion, so definitely he will be a damage dealer. But let's see if he does anything else apart from doing damage. Also, we want to see if it's an AoE or a single target, so watch out for that also. He attacks one enemy on the A1. Each hit has a 30% chance of placing 60% decreased defense debuff for 2 turns. So he's a debuffer on his A1, just like what's his name, Ninja, who has an A1 that cannot also place decreased defense, but he hits 2 times, so he has a higher chance of placing this decreased defense, I guess. Even if 30% seems like a low chance, it can be booked up to 40 and 50% chance. That is high. He's definitely going to place this. So with this champion in your team, I guess you don't need a decreased defense, dedicated decreased defense champion. So he can debuff and then nuke. But I'm guessing he doesn't open with his A1. You're not going to start the battle with his A1. So that's what I think about this A1. It doesn't end there. The chance increases to 50% if the target is under fear or through fear. So it will be a total of 70% if he places fear or through fear on the enemy before he does this. I'm guessing one of his skills is going to place through fear. On his A2, he attacks all enemies, has a 75% chance of placing decreased accuracy, 50% decreased accuracy. We need that these days for the Hydra or for some other content. For 2 turns, and a True Fear. I knew he was going to place it. True Fear is for 1 turn though. Champions from the High Elves, Dark Elf faction cannot resist his debuff of decreased accuracy and True Fear. So he had something against the High Elves and Dark Elves, as usual. These chances can also be increased to a total of 100% chance to land, and it's in a 3-turn cooldown. For a legendary champion, it's necessary that this decreased accuracy and True Fear be on a 3-turn cooldown. It's standard. It's nothing special, I guess. But on this A3 now, he kind of reduces the turn on this A2. Let's see. He attacks one enemy. This is the nuking ability for the A3. So he's a single target nuker who has some other control abilities for True Fear and all that. He will ignore shields. That is a 100% shield ignore. So I guess he can take down a highly shielded team just one at a time. Decrease the cooldown of battle flow, which is his A2, by 2 turns. That means it will be ready to go instantly, because remember it's in a 3-turn cooldown. So if it's already used for 1 and you decrease it by 2 turns, the next time you go, you can use it. So it doesn't just nuke, he decreases the cooldown of that skill for 2 turns. He fills this champion's turn meter by 30%. 30% is reasonable, and places 30% increased crit damage buff on this champion for 2 turns if this attack kills an enemy. Well, I thought he was going to place this increased crit damage on himself before he does this nuking of ignoring shield. Because if you already use this skill and it's on a 5-turn cooldown, can be booked to 4-turn cooldown. That means his increased crit damage will be used on an A1. This makes no sense. I guess the whole purpose of this A3 is to decrease the cooldown of the A2, because Placing increased crit damage on yourself for 2 turns when this skill will be off for a whole 3 turns doesn't make sense. So this increased crit damage will be used on an A1 or an A2 skill. You see what I'm saying, right? That's what this, it's not a nuking ability. Hopefully he hits really hard. If he hits really hard, then you don't mind about the increased crit damage. You will come in there with enough crit damage to do work. You will not rely on a 30% increased crit damage. On a passive, he heals this champion by 50% of their max HP every time this champion kills an enemy. That's a huge heal. 50% of his max HP. That's a huge heal. Also grants an extra turn every time this champion kills an enemy from the High Elves or Dark Elves faction. Again, when we build champions for Raid Shadow Legends, we really don't go into battle thinking we're going to use them for only a particular faction or against a particular type of enemy. Although for the arena, you do see a lot of Dark Elves and High Elves though. I mean the Arbiters and all that. So we don't build champions necessarily targeting a particular faction. So this extra turn, you can't rely on it. That's what I'm trying to say. So that's what I think about this dude. I'll reserve my comments about him. Remember, we're trying to find the best one out of all of them. So when I go through the entire list, that's when I'll decide which one is the best one for me. So the next champion is Jing 1, a legendary Void champion, HP based Shadow King. Already you say, oh, Void, he will be the best on this list. Hold on, let's check through the abilities first to see if this will be a trash Void like we just got recently. And let's see. Attacks one enemy, transfers a random debuff from this champion to the target. That's something Lysandra does, right? But Lysandra sends all her debuffs to the target. He sends only one random debuff from himself to the target. Lysandra sends her entire debuff, decrease attack, decrease different, everything you put on her, she'll just transfer it back to you on an A1. So how come a Void legendary cannot transfer all his debuff back, but Lysandra can? That's what I think about this one. They're kind of nerfing these champions a little bit for them not to allow him send all debuffs. It's just one random debuff. Alright, on its A2, has a 75% chance of increasing the duration of 2 random debuffs on the target for 1 turn. He increases the duration of 2 random debuffs on the target for 1 turn. Also places block active skills debuff for 1 turn if the target is under decreased accuracy debuff or decreased crit damage debuff. This condition of placing block active skills is not necessary. You should place it because you're increasing this 2 random debuffs for 1 turn, and it's not an A1 ability, it's an A2 ability which attacks one person. It's not even an AoE skill that increases the duration of debuffs for everybody on the enemy team. The chance can be booked up to 100%, of course, and of course it's a 2-turn skill though. It can be 2-turn cooldown, so it's good. 2-turn cooldown is good. Immediately I see debuff increase, I think of Vizier, and we already know champions that can do it better. So we are like, do we need more champions that can do it? Yes, we need more champions in Raid Shadow Legends that can increase the duration of debuffs on the enemy. There are very few that can do it. So he is a nice addition on a 2-turn cooldown. It's perfect, although he might not be better than what we already have in terms of Vizier for increasing cooldown, but he will serve that purpose if it's all you have, if you don't have these other champions. So this looks like a good addition to Raid, but I don't know about these block active skills for 1 turn on the condition that decreased accuracy is on the target. But hey, you know he's gonna place the decreased accuracy and decreased crit damage. That's why they made it part of his skill. He attacks all enemies on his A3. The first hit has a 80% chance of placing decreased accuracy. It can be booked up to 100%, of course, for 2 turns. The second hit has a 80% chance of placing decreased crit damage for 2 turns also. Also places 25% strengthening buff on this champion. Oh, it should have been an AoE on his all allies. A 5-turn cooldown booked to 4-turn cooldown. So we already have an epic in the game who is doing this decreased accuracy and decreased crit damage. A new champion, I forgot what her name, Visionary. I think that's her name, yes. Visionary has this exact same skill right now that can do this, but she doesn't place a strength in, I think, no. Then he has a passive. He's immune to fear. Okay, now this is where it gets interesting. Now this is what makes him a void legendary champion. This passive. Immune to fear, immune to true fear, immune to freeze, immune to provoke, immune to sleep, immune to stun, immune to petrification debuffs. Do I want to say right now that this is the best champion out of this entire list that has been released? Whenever a fear, true fear, or all these debuffs are placed on an ally, removes it and places a block debuff on that ally for 2 turns. So they are trying to build somebody like an Inquisitor Chameleon, because the nerfed Inquisitor Chameleon, everybody is angry about that. So now here is a legendary that everybody will be trying to get. So instead of you trying to get what's the name now, Inquisitor Chameleon, you'll be spending money to try to get this dude because he's immune to fear and all this stuff. So that means he'll be awesome for the Hydra boss. So I think this is a perfect replacement for Inquisitor Chameleon, but hey, he doesn't hit when fear is placed or anything. What I'm saying is, since he's kind of immune to all these things, he'll be perfect for the Hydra, at least for your second team. But there's no replacement for Inquisitor Chameleon because he's kind of a different one when he hits for every fear that is placed. So this dude looks good. He has an aura of increased ally HP in all battles by 33%. Now this passive doesn't happen all the time. He has a cooldown, a very long cooldown. It's a 4-turn cooldown if you book it. So I guess that's what makes it not that broken, because if it was on a 1-turn or a 2-turn cooldown, it would be as broken as, you know, anything. If it's a 4-turn cooldown, does that mean he will not be totally immune to all these debuffs at every point in time? I guess after every 4-turn he can take on a fear. Is that what it means? Because if it's a passive, no, I think he's 100% immune to all these debuffs. But when this is done, that's when the passive kicks in. So they just wanted to let you know first that he's immune to all these things before now the passive works with fear and all that. So I guess that makes sense. It does not make sense to have a champion that is immune to fear and make him get fear sometimes. No, 100% he will not be able to get feared, through feared, freezed, provoked, and stunned. That is an awesome legendary right there. I'm trying to see if he's a hard hitter, but it seems like he's just there to support the team in terms of block active skills. Transfers a random debuff. So if he's immune to all these debuffs, what is it transferring? He's going to transfer decrease attack and decrease defense. He's immune to almost all the good debuffs that we have besides the basic ones. And then you have an A1 skill that transfers debuffs. All right. That's nice. So you cannot control this dude. A nice addition. What's his name again? Jingwon, Shadow King faction. They are killing it. The Shadow Kings are killing it. Now the next champion is Opadin Clan Father. I think we already heard about this dude in the game. Isn't that the next fusion champion that is coming up? Opadin Clan Father is a magic affinity champion, HP based barbarian. On his A1, he attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 50% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 5%. Each hit decreases turn meter by 5%. So a lot of people were saying, why would you do 5% decrease turn meter when he's a legendary champion on an A1? Has a 50% chance of filling this champion's turn meter by 5. So that's almost a 10% decrease turn meter if he's filling his own turn meter. But it's a 50% chance. But it's not even on each hit, the filling. 50% chance. Booked up to 65% chance. Alright. On his A2, attacks all enemies, heals all allies by 10% of this champion's max HP. Being an HP based champion, you will build this champion with all the HP chest and glove you can find. Heals all allies by 10% of his max HP. That is always good. It's not good when it's based on their max HP. Heals all allies under continuous heal buff by 15% instead. So, does it place continuous heal? We will find out. This skill is on a 3-turn cooldown, so he's a healer. That's what you can already see. Turn meter control and heal because it's HP based also. Removes block buffs and heal reduction debuffs from all allies. Who places block buff on us? So right now this skill doesn't make sense. There's no boss or anything that places block buffs and heal reduction on us, on the allies. Then places 2 continuous heal buffs on all allies for 2 turns. So if he doesn't remove the block buff, I hope he'll still place the continuous heal, because I know there's no block buffs content right now. Also has a 75% chance of removing 1 random debuff from all allies. So he's just gonna remove 1 of the debuffs. He's on a 3-turn cooldown too, just like this other skill, which is awesome. We always want to see 3-turn cooldown skills on legendary. 4-turn cooldown is a no-no. He also has a passive. Each time a continuous heal buff heals an ally, fills the ally's turn meter by 5%. If there are multiple champions in the team, the skill only one will activate. Okay, so he's basically a healer who places continuous heal, and maybe there will be content in the future that will place block buffs and heal reduction on us, but right now this one makes no sense. The A3 makes no sense at all. So the next champion is Hole's Ring, a legendary magic affinity champion, attack based secret order, who looks like this other dude who places HP burn without hitting. Not Achak, Mordecai. This looks like Mordecai if you just look at the banner, the avatar. He attacks 2 times at random. We don't like that. We don't like that here. Places a 50% increase attack buff on this champion for 2 turns if this attack is critical. Of course, it's going to be critical because it's attack based. You're building with 100% crit. On his A2, attacks 3 times at random. Again, we don't like that. But if it's against the boss, you don't mind. So when he's hitting at random for the Hydra, you don't want that also. Will ignore 25% of defense against targets under Hex. So when we hear X, they want us to use the champion for alongside with a Hex debuffer. We ignore a further 25% of defense against targets under Hex. Wait. Attacks 3 times at random will ignore 25% of defense against targets under Hex. Yes. We ignore a further 25% against targets under Hex debuffs from the banner Lords of Knights. Okay. So he's targeting Knights Revenant factions, and we don't want that either. Everybody should be able to ignore 50% if you're under Hex. But 25% of ignored defense if they have X, plus your decreased defense, plus maybe your Helm Smasher, that's a nuker right there. AoE nuker, but only can nuke 3 people out of an entire 4-5 man team. That's if you want to use this champion for the arena, but this is not an arena skill. You don't use Hex in the arena. So you also don't nuke only 3 out of 5 champions in the arena. So it's more of a general content champion right now, I think, or Hydra because of the Hex. Attacks 4 times at random on the A3. Random again. What is this dude with random hits? Is he blind or something? Each hit has a 75% chance of placing Hex. Alright, so he debuffs before he hits. The Hex is for 3 turns, so that's enough time for him to come around to his A2 and then use it. Champions from the Banner Lords and the Knight Rev faction cannot resist this debuff. Each hit has a 75% chance of stealing 25% of the target's turn meter. That's a lot of turn meter. 25% is huge. At least it's not 5 to 10%, it's 25%. Steals 50% of the turn meter against Knight Revenant again and Banner Lords faction. So if this champion's turn meter is at 75% or more after the steal, places a perfect veil buff on this champion for 2 turns. This skill can be booked down to a 4-turn cooldown. So it's a 4-turn cooldown skill, hits 4 times at random, it places hex, and also steals 25% turn meter. We don't care about this condition for Revenants and Banner Lords because we don't build champions again for a particular faction. Raid, watch out, know that. We don't build champions for a faction. We want champion for general content, for any type of enemy, not a particular faction, then you use them. If this champion attacks 2 targets under hex debuff during the same turn, places a perfect veil. That's a passive on this champion for 1 turn. Will not counter attacks. If this champion attacks 2 targets under hex debuff on the same turn, will place perfect veil. So he can survive a fight long time because he probably will be hitting champions who are under perfect veil because of that 3-turn perfect veil that he places. Increases critical damage by 30% while attacking under perfect veil. Whoa, that's a huge hit right there. So a lot of people might be trying to bring this champion now to the arena because of this perfect veil condition that increases his critical damage. That's a lot of crit damage. Imagine you hitting up to 350 or even 300 crit damage just because of this increased 30%. Because normally you're about 250 to 300, but this 30% helps. Then if you buff it again, maybe you have an additional crit damage increase and then go crazy. He's a nuker. And it's an AoE nuker, but it's random. So I don't know if it's, when it says random, it's going to hit one enemy twice and ignore one enemy totally. What's his faction? The Sacred Order. Okay. The next champion is Kunoichi. This is an epic champion, a force affinity defense-based Shadow King champion. It looks like a face of a animal, but if you look right under, you can see the lips of a human. So Kunoichi is a Shadow King, so don't think it's skinwalkers. No, this is an actual human that is under that mask. And attacks one enemy, has a 30% chance of placing 25% weaken debuff for 2 turns. We always like weaken. The only champion I know that places weaken on an A1 is what's her name? Abita. Attacks all enemies, has a 75% chance of placing leech debuff for 2 turns. That's a 5-turn cooldown booked to 4. Leech for 2 turns. Is that all? Oh, I forget this is an epic. I was expecting more. Because you place weaken here, you place leech here, and a 4-turn cooldown leech makes no sense. It's a 100% chance to land if you book it, but a 4-turn cooldown leech makes no sense. You bring nothing else to the team apart from leech and weaken. Let's see what else you can do. Places a 50% ally protect buff on all allies except this champion for 2 turns. Fills this champion's turn meter. Okay, now I see where this is working. This champion is a clan boss champion. Why? Because look, based on defense, force affinity, weaken, leech, ally protect, clan boss. General clan boss, or maybe not even a healer. It doesn't, because leech, it's not really a healing ability. They should add something else to our skill. This is an epic champion because they give her weaken, leech, and ally protect. They're like, that's it. You have enough. All right. On this passive skill, places a block damage buff on this champion for 1 turn whenever their HP drops below 50%. Nice. So when she places this ally protect, you know she's gonna get hit. All the damage will come to her, and she will block damage when her HP falls below 50%. It's a passive skill, but it's a 5-turn cooldown. That means it's not gonna happen again in a 3-turn boss fight for the clan boss. It's gonna happen once, and then hope to pray that she doesn't die the second time it happens. All right, that's a clan boss champion right here. Let me know if you think this is a different way to use this champion other than what I just read right now. Old Grukus, an epic force support champion, Ogrin tribe. Ogrin tribe already has enough champions. Why do you still need to add to them? That's a support champion. He places leech, attacks 3 times. We already think of Fire Knight when you see a champion that hits 3 times, and you have to give them War Master Mastery if you're making them a hitter though. But since he's a support champion, you might be thinking defense and support 3. Well, let's see. He places leech, 15% chance of placing leech on each of the hits. It can be booked to 20% chance of placing it. So there is a very low chance that this leech will land. Very, very low chance. 20% chance to land the leech is kind of low. Even if you hit 3 times, there's a chance that you will not land it once. That's a low chance. It's not a reliable leech right there. But hey, play with luck. 3 times you might land it once. Attacks one enemy on the A2 skill, has a 60% chance of placing 30% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns. Also has a 40% chance of decreasing the target storm meter by 30%. So decreased storm meter and speed for one enemy. It's not a useful skill for an epic. No. We don't want that over here. Even if it's 3 turn cooldown. Decreased speed on one champion. It's not an AoE skill. And attacks all enemies, has a 30% chance of placing decreased attack and 100% heal reduction. 3 turn cooldown. So decreased attack on a 3 turn cooldown, it's not also useful, I don't think. Heal reduction maybe somewhere special. Increase all ally speed in dungeons by 24%. So this champion will be vaulted. I can tell you right now that old Glucose will be vaulted. It's not on the list of champions people will be looking out for. We already saw this champion. She is even more useful than he is in terms of the epics category though. Lady Quellen. She looks similar to one of these beautiful ladies we have in Raid Shadow Legends already. Kind of a similar character design with the red hair. Force affinity, of course, because she's red hair, right? Attack champion, Banner Lords. Attacks one enemy, fills the champion's stun meter by 15% if this attack is critical. 15% stun meter fill. You know what I just thought of? Somebody that fills his stun meter by 5% on his A1, the legendary champion. And here where we are with an epic that can do it, 15% stun meter fill on an A1 too. But she doesn't reduce stun meter by 5% though, so I guess we could forgive that legendary champion for only filling his stun meter by 5% when she can do it 15%. He doesn't have a condition, she does though. It has to be a critical hit. She's an attack-based champion, you're going to build crits. We know that. Attacks one enemy again on an A2, places an extra hit if this attack is critical. Of course, 100% crit. Fills the stun meter of all allies by 30% if this attack kills an enemy. This is conditional, so we don't rely on this 30% stun meter fill. We just know that it's going to place an extra hit because it's crits. So if he hits 2 times, it might actually kill somebody. It's an A1 single target skill. Enough crit damage, you will kill somebody. Alright, for the basic skill, attacks all enemies, places 30% increased crit damage buff on all allies for 2 turns. When ascended, attacks all enemies, places 30% increased crit damage buff on all allies for 2 turns. So what is the difference? Oh, it adds an additional 50% increased attack buff on all allies for 2 turns when ascended. So increased attack and increased crit damage. This is a huge skill, but it's on a 4 turn cooldown when booked, so it might not be, although you need to use it once. So if you just use it once, she'll be awesome. But her other skills, she's a support champion. She looks like an attack-based champion. So no, I don't think she'll be useful. We need this 30% increased crit damage and increased crit attack. But then it's on a 4 turn cooldown and we only use it once. So I don't know if this is going to be a support champion that brings nothing else to the team that you need. I don't think. Most times, only increased attack is enough to nuke whatever you need to nuke. You don't need increased attack and increased crit damage. But hey, let's see. The last one on the list is Andorf, a rare epic. No, I mean a epic champion of the Magic Affinity, defense-based Banner Lords. Attacks one enemy, has a 20% chance of placing provoke debuff for 1 turn. Useful, I guess, sometimes. Attacks all enemies, 75% chance of placing weaken for 2 turns. Also 25% chance of placing fear for 1 turn. This is awesome on a 3 turn cooldown. So it's a control and debuffer. Hopefully there's already decreased defense champion out there already. Places a 30% reflect damage on all allies for 2 turns. Places a counter attack buff on this champion for 2 turns. Reflect damage on the entire ally team and counter attack on himself on a 3 turn cooldown. Where can this one be used? I like the fear and the weaken, mostly because we already usually have decreased defense and decreased attack out there. The A1 is not special, but this one is also not special. Reflect damage 30% is not special. Counter attack on himself is not special. So he might go in the vault. you don't bring anything special to the team besides this weekend and fear. No, not even through fear for 1 turn, not even on a 2 turn. All right, that's all these champions that is going to be coming out in January. We've already seen one who is going to be joining the game as a legendary champion in the way of a fusion. I think it's Clanfather. And hopefully you guys choose which of them you think is going to be best. Personally, I think the Void legendary champion is awesome. He's one of the best out of the entire list in terms of the legendary category. For the epic category, I'll choose Kunoichi. I think she has the best skill that I want in a team in terms of clan boss or any way I need my team to survive, leech, weaken, and all that. So all the others are not standing out. If I get them, they will sit in the vault along with other champions who have similar skill, who can do 1 thing or 2 things, but they can't do the rest of the things you need them to. That's what I think about these new champions that are coming up in Raid. Fusion is coming up. I'll post my Fusion plan when it's finally released, when we know the plan for how the Fusion is going to be. Hopefully you guys subscribe, like, and let me know which of these champions you think is special that you want to in your roster, or how you intend to use them. I don't think any of them are that outstanding except Jing1 and my epic that I showed you. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bricks, I'm out.